Double dipping. Back to back nights. Friday, September 5th, bleeding into the 6th. It's amazing with just a little extra free time and a little bit of leeway on noise levels can do in the way of productivity and things you usually don't get the time for. So I thought it would drop back and double up while I got the chance. Was a lot I didn't get to last night, namely some of the other movies and shows, some football that went down tonight. Watched Travis Kelce celebrate getting engaged by just about decapitating one of his teammates on the third play of the game. I'm a huge fan of NFL games just starting immediately. The last 28 hours we watched one game start with a guy getting in a spitting match back and forth, and another starting with a starting wide receiver 3 plays in just about getting his body split in half by his own teammate. So I like that we're just wasting no time. We're just getting right to it. That should be fun. College football is today, depending on which way you look at it. Kind of a thin slate overall. Starts in the morning, though, with the Cyhawk game. Iowa State. It's a rare instance where Iowa State should win this one pretty handily. It'll be exciting to see. I just thought could maybe be better names for that rivalry. Cyhawk is okay, but I don't know if it's as fun as the Casey's Classic or the I just unironically ate dinner at a gas station and then liked it shootout. I think that's another one that could be considered. Nonetheless, it should be a fun watch. A couple games in the afternoon, and then Michigan and Boomer Sooner tomorrow night. Tonight, either one. Again, depending on how you look at it. I think that one should be entertaining. And then the first full Sunday slate for the NFL should be good. Only need one streaming service for the first 90% of the games on Sunday. After that, you're on your own. That'll be a theme this year with the NFL and the 85 different streaming services it's hitched its wagon to, and fully expects everyone watching to do the same. That being said, I will say the freebie on YouTube tonight was nice. Makes sense. I could see this being repeated. If you're going to have a YouTube TV deal and you're going to get too cheap and you're going to cut out the free 2 weeks that you used to do with the same package, that being Sunday Ticket, the least you could probably do is offer up a freebie to start the year. And that they did. That was pretty cool. Hopefully they stick with that. Won't be surprised if they don't, though, because I know the NFL is allergic to the word free. Violently allergic to the word cheap. Has adverse reactions to the word affordable. But nevertheless, it won't kill them. Once in a blue moon, throw out a freebie. Especially a game like this, it was entertaining to watch. Two teams that you would watch in September as fast as you would watch in December and vice versa, which was a treat, so that was nice. Speaking of treats, am I fat? No. However, did I call to place a takeout order for pizza at a place I frequent, only to get no response, but then get called back less than 10 seconds later with a, "R.E.N, did you want a pizza?" Well, I don't know. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. But you're going to have to really dig into my phone records to find that one out, one way or the other. Shout out to none other than Via Roma for that. just the best best sit down pizza I've had west of Denver ever, and it's consistent. It's every week. Not that I go every week. Again, maybe I do. I am not fat. That being said, I may be awful, but I promise I'm not as awful as Philadelphia Phillies Karen is. Wow. If you haven't seen that one, it's going to be tough to avoid over the weekend. That was a viral clip in a matter of minutes. I had that game on a little screen and thought I saw something, but I thought I was dreaming. Basically, it was a melee for a home run ball between the Marlins and Phillies, and guy clearly didn't shove anybody or punch anybody or do anything insane like we're used to seeing running for a foul ball or a home run ball, and he happened to pick it up, and this woman took a visceral offense to this guy coming up at the ball. And if you rewatch the clip, it's actually funny in the sense that the guy was so caught off guard by her confronting him in the way that she did that he squared up, and it was so instinctive that you could tell his brain hadn't even registered yet when he did what was actually going on. But the backlash that this woman received on the internet was a sight to behold. It's a rare moment where you feel like, you know what? Maybe there's a chance that the American public finally finds some common ground almost universally in the just vitriol towards this woman. I don't know how else to describe it. I mean, it was about as adverse of a reaction as I've seen the masses collectively have over one person in a long time. And it was deserved. She doubled and tripled down on just being the quintessential Karen, as she's already being labeled as. And it got ugly, but there was a happy ending. The Marlins seemed to go out of their way to spoil this kid who was supposed to get the ball. Dad gave the ball up to this psychopath, and the Marlins went out of their way to get this kid a number of things on their behalf. It was actually kind of funny watching an usher gift this kid all of this stuff while telling the kid, hey, we know you're not a Marlins fan, because he was not. He was a Phillies fan. And they hooked him up with a meeting of Harrison Bader after the game. So kid definitely came out on top, but kind of ironic 24 hours later that we're again talking about being better to those around you, and then that happened, and how just infuriated the masses were after seeing that. So it was hard to watch at first, but initially, once you get over that, everything that happened after the fact was pretty fun to read, see, and hear about. So, congrats to that kid for nothing in particular, really, being victimized by a Karen. But gonna be a tough week or month or maybe even year for that lady, because if we know the internet like we think we know the internet, we know what the internet's going to do with that one. I'd imagine by noon tomorrow, everyone she's ever even looked at will know all about what happened last night at the game. And on top of that, she didn't do herself any favors by having one of the most distinguishable haircuts you could ever hope to come across. And it unfortunately is central casting for the Karen stereotype. So that was tough. And she's going to be in for a rough ride, but let's hope, if nothing else, if she ends up in a similar situation down the road, that she reconsiders and makes sure that those around her reconsider potentially acting the way she did. In other news, one film I forgot to talk about last night, but I am amped for, is the sequel to The Black Phone. I thought the original was great. I loved how simplistic it was, but how it just kind of checked every box of a real simplistic, just cut and dry, straightforward, punch you in the mouth horror film. I thought the aesthetic was great. Something about throwing the time setting, anyway, back to the 70s, it just, I don't know why it plays so well. It just felt like the 80s slasher plays well. You know, if you set a film in the 80s, it just, there's something about the 80s. It does really well with slashers. Early 2000s, you get some great psychological horror films, but just a straightforward, this is what it is. You're going to know what this movie's about in the first 5 minutes. We'll make it 30 seconds out of the opening credits, and something's going to happen that gives you the idea for what you're in for. Horror film, it's great with the 70s aesthetic. And The Black Phone uses that. It does really well with the soundtrack. It throws you back to a lot of 70s hits that aren't overplayed or overdone, but they are recognizable. So they're just deep enough of a deep cut to where, okay, this is off the beaten path, but not so deep that you're only gonna, catch the ear of 5% of the audience. That being said, this sequel, the trailer looked great. It looked like an homage to a cult classic called Curtains. And that one, along with this trailer, again made me wonder why, other than just maybe it's too low hanging fruit, but it feels like ice skates would make for a great prop that has not been beaten to death by the horror genre. And I kind of wonder if that's not going to be something that this film touches on. The trailer definitely does not allow you to rule it out. So I'm excited for that. Ethan Hawke was great in the first one, and I think he'll do just as great, if not even better, in this one. I think it's going to be a rare scenario where the consensus opinion is the sequel is even better than the original. I think the original had enough of a great premise and plot line to carry itself, but it left enough on the table to where you could make a great sequel out of what you got with the initial storyline. So I think there's that. And then because it expands that way, I think it allows for more unpredictability, which is a great thing, because above even, a drama or a romance, comedy and horror scientifically are the two toughest genres to put together winning sequels for, just because you have to go against human nature to make a good sequel for each. And you have to walk the tightrope of, okay, it's fine to go to the well. This is what was funny about the first one, or this is what was terrifying about the first one. But if you go to the well too often, it gets really predictable really fast. And they make it so that it's really tough for the audience to stay scared or stay laughing because of that. But yeah, science just suggests that those two genres are tougher to put together a better sequel or a sequel that is on par with the original because of it. Because, horror plays on humans are afraid of the unknown. What they're not expecting freaks them out. That, and then with comedy, laughing is a natural panic reaction because you're not sure how to react to something, so it's not uncommon for people to laugh in situations like that, whether it be something that actually is funny or something they just flat out weren't expecting. That's not an unnatural reaction. But when you know what's coming, it's really tough to basically prey on that as someone putting together a film. So because of that, it's rare to come across comedies and horrors that do better in the sequel than the original, but more often than not, the common denominator of the ones that do are the original was very simplistic, and the sequel or the films that came afterwards expanded on a real simple premise, whether it be humor or horror, and kind of took it and ran with it. I think the best example, too, just on the surface of that, is the Purge series. At least the first few, where the first one was so simple. The plot carried the whole movie, and it was really good, but there was so much left there for a sequel. And then, as they progressed, the sequels had more thought into what was going into them, and that freedom to expand allowed for much, much better sequels than the original, and nothing against the original. Another shout out to Ethan Hawke, but that was why those were so good and so effective. So I think this one very well could be, from the looks of it anyway, a staple of a sequel that's better than the original, and especially for a franchise where the original was by no means bad. It was great, but I think the sequel could be even better. Though I would say that's worth remembering the next time person in your friends group, because every friends group has one. Oh, the sequel sucks, man. The original was way better. That there is a science behind it that suggests that, first off, that's just the natural order of things, and secondly, there is a chance that if you had never seen either and they weren't in chronological order, that whether it be a comedy or a horror, if you watch the sequel before the original, you might in fact end up preferring the sequel over the original, despite how unthinkable that may seem with certain films. I get it, but there is reasoning behind why it might be possible. Either way, we are only about 6 weeks away from finding out, since that one premieres 6 weeks from today, October 17th. So, in the meantime, let me know what you are excited for, sequel or not.